Hi, Cornish Chris the Fish. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. Did you know that 78% of people who watch my channel don't subscribe? You know what, guys, if you haven't subscribed yet, it would be absolutely amazing if you could. I've set a goal now of 1,000 subscribers. And when I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to do something really special for the channel. I'll tell you what that'll be when I get to 1,000. But it'd be amazing if we could get to 1,000, because I've got some ambitions now for this channel, and where I might take us in the form of fishing adventures. So do me a favour. It doesn't cost you anything. Just very quickly hit the subscribe button. That'd be awesome. Proper job. Well, hello, welcome back. Cornish Chris here, and it's a very frosty morning, and I thought I would record a Q&A video because I do get a number of questions, and I thought maybe it would be worthwhile sharing those responses for those who might be interested. As you know, I'm not an expert fisherman, far from it, certainly not in salmon. And I've had one season, my first season being 2022, and I started in March 2022 and then fished quite a bit throughout that period of time between March and November, and I caught my first salmon on the fly. Considering that I'm a complete novice, I don't think that's too bad. But while making this channel, I always wanted to get the best advice, and I certainly have, from a lot of people, but also had lots of questions. So I thought, well, I'll make this video because it will be a good opportunity for me not only to refresh my memory, but also answer some of those questions that people have been asking me. So here we go. Question number one I get asked a lot is what am I fishing with? What's my setup? Okay, well, I purchased a Shakespeare Oracle Scandi rod, 14'9", 10 weight. And the great thing about Shakespeare is that it really gives everybody the opportunity to get into salmon fishing without the normal huge barrier of entry, such as a really expensive rod. And you know, I don't make too much of the rod, to be fair. A lot of people go on about how they've got these Sage rods or Hardy rods and all this kind of stuff, and yeah, I'm sure they're amazing. But for me, as a novice salmon fisherman, the biggest barrier for entry I felt was going to be getting a rod. And you know what? I've been more than happy with the Shakespeare. In addition to that, I've got a Shakespeare switch rod, 11 foot, 7/8 weight. It's like a travel rod, so it comes in like 8 pieces. But that's been really good. The only thing I reckon that I'm going to switch up for this year is I'm going to move to a Skagit line, because I think that will really help me make the most of the double-handed nature of the switch rod. Single hand's fine, but you know, double hand casting, spey casting, for me that's where it's at now. Question number two that I get asked a lot is, what's my opinion on the best rivers to fish on, and likewise the worst rivers? Yeah, that's a really tough question, because my favourite river, I think, now, and not just because I caught my first fish on it, but I do hold a very special place in my heart for the Dee, the River Dee up in Scotland. You know, it's just, for me, it's got something really quite magical about the place. Lots of really good fisheries, not all you know, massively expensive, but some really good fisheries. And when I stay in Bankery, which I think is a really good base for fishing on the River Dee, you know, everything's pretty easily accessible. Having been there now 3 times last year, I actually feel really confident up there as well. Kind of know where I'm going without needing sat nav. Yeah, so River Dee would be probably be my favourite, and the place I hold dear. Certain fisheries on the Spey as well, Gordon Castle Estate and Castle Grant, both have fond memories from last season for me, predominantly because of the qualities of the Ghillies, and just the overall experience. It's tough to say what the worst river for me was last year. I don't want to hate on anything if I can help it, because then you become, you know, it becomes polarizing and people have very staunch views. But I suppose it's not really the river's fault itself, but everybody else around it maybe, and climate and everything. But I didn't find the why to be very constructive. Certainly not the amount of times I went fishing on all these what were described as premium or premier fishing venues. It seems to me, and I might be completely wrong, that the only place that you can really catch a salmon or catch consistently on the Wye is on the Wysham beat. But I didn't know how to find that one, so if you do know how to get onto the Wysham beat, then, you know, drop a message in the comments below and maybe I can get on it. But yeah, it's got to have a healthy balance between, for me, affordability and also opportunity. Other nice rivers that I fished on, I really like the Esks, north and south. They were really good. Yeah, some really nice places, but for me, my number one river, I think, has got to be the Dee, followed closely by the Spey. Oh, I haven't mentioned the Tay as well. When I first started, my first ever actual thing I ever recorded for the channel was on fish ponds on the River Tay. That was a good experience, you know, really nice. Dalguys, I think it is, Dalguys. I think the Ghillie is called Colin, or Dalmarnock. Well, both of those fishes, in fact, were pretty good too. So yeah, there's some really nice places, and certainly for me though, I think it's where the Dee is where it is for me. Another question I get asked a lot is, where am I booking my fishing? Well, it's through FishPal predominantly. When I was fishing down in Wales on the Wye and the Usk, I booked all that through the Wye and Usk Foundation. I don't really rate them as an organisation, really, or certainly not from the perspective of customer service. And if you want to find out more about those experiences, just check out my Wye and Usk videos. Yeah, so mainly FishPal. You know, the thing is about FishPal, which I discovered in the summer, is that you can actually contact their offices and also speak to like local representatives. There was a chap that I spoke to. I've spoken to quite a bit actually, but of course I've forgotten his name. But if I remember it, I'll put it up. Alistair, that's it, Alistair. And you know, he helped me find some beats which I would have normally overlooked. And so, yeah, people like that through the FishPal organisation can recommend places to go and fish. I mean, that's pretty cool. That's maybe something that maybe they don't advertise enough, you know. Another question I get asked is about money, costs of fishing. And yeah, you know, I probably will start to include the cost of the day ticket in the videos from now on. I was a bit unsure whether to do so, but you know, a lot of people keep asking about it. You know, how much does it cost you to fish here or there? And yeah, I'll be starting to share that more in my videos for the 2023 season and beyond. As a general rule, I don't really want to pay more than 60 or 70 pounds for a day's fishing. You know, I'm doing all of this on a budget. You know, I live quite a nomadic lifestyle, and so, you know, I like to try to do things on a budget. The most I've ever paid for fishing ever was £180 to fish at Park in the summer. I don't know, I just looked at the catch returns and thought, well, I'm definitely going to get a fish at that price. No. So, you know, Kincardine was 60 quid that I paid to fish there, and I caught a fish on it. So, you know, just goes to show it doesn't really matter about how much money you spend. I think at the end of the day, it's all about being in the right place at the right time, with the right water levels, fish running through. That's it. Majority of it appears to me to be luck. Obviously, the more experienced you are in reading the water and fishing with the correct flies and all that, then of course you're going to increase your chances. But at the end of the day, it's still luck. So this season I will mostly be trying to fish day tickets between 35 and 65 pounds for the day. I don't want to be spending any more than that. Another question I get asked quite a bit is about how I can afford to do all this fishing. And I think a lot of people are interested because they know that I lead a relatively nomadic lifestyle. I stay in locations for 2 to 3 weeks, move on to somewhere else, and how I'm able to facilitate that. It's not van life, it's caravan life. And you know, a few years ago I never thought I'd buy a caravan, but back end of October of 2021, with a change in personal circumstances, left my girlfriend and I separated, and we rather than me going back into bricks and mortar, back into a house, I actually went and bought a caravan. And it's allowed me to travel around the country to the most amazing locations, stay very cheap, really. You know, my budget for a month of living accommodation is £700, and sometimes I struggle to spend that. But I'm trying to spend it, but that £700 includes, you know, electricity, Wi-Fi if I want to use site Wi-Fi. So really my bills are a lot less and a lot more reduced. So that means I can spend more time going fishing. Another question I've been asked is about tipping ghillies, and I think it's a very good question because, you know, the majority of ghillies, as I understand it, earn on average between £19,000 and £21,000 a year if they're lucky enough to be on like a full-time employment contract. A lot of ghillies, it's like gig work, you know, it's day rates and things like that. So here's my general rule of thumb for tipping. I need to find a reason not to tip. in a way, because if you get somebody who just rocks up, like meet you at 9 o'clock or whatever, shows you where to fish, then they leaves you to it, and you don't see them again until maybe the end of the day, probably wouldn't tip. But if you get somebody who, you know, welcomes you, takes you in, makes you a cup of coffee, sets up your rod, can't do anything enough for you, even if you don't see them, at the end of the day, I would tip them for sure. Likewise, if you get somebody who is, you know, you see them 3 or 4 times a day, they come down, they chat to you, they help you with your lines and maybe suggest different things, yeah, tip them. And what would I tip? Well, I think it's got to be affordable, and so if I get that ghillie who, you know, helps us set my rod up in the morning, makes us a cup of coffee, very friendly, shows us around, you know, see him again at lunch, and you know, see him throughout the day, and then a cup of tea or something offered in the evening, yeah, I would tip him. My maximum tip is 20 quid, and then minimum tip be £10. But I do think if you want to recognise service and the amount of effort that somebody goes to, I think a tip is valid and worthwhile, and it certainly puts you, I feel, in a good place with regards to ghillies. You know, I know some people might think, well, maybe you should tip more, but you know, at the end of the day, I'm on a budget, and I think that when people see me rock up in me, my shogun, and I start tacking up my Shakespeare oracle, and you know, I've got me cheap waders on, they're not necessarily thinking or maybe expecting, oh, he's going to give me £1,000 or £100 or whatever. You know, I think it's all in proportion, but I think 20 quid for a tip is pretty decent. Nobody's ever complained about that. In fact, so many people, that's what I really love about a lot of the ghillies I've met. In fact, probably 99% of the ghillies I've met, they have all been surprised, were surprised to have received a tip. That, you know, if it was 1 or 2 people, maybe it would be an act, but no, everybody's been surprised to receive a tip. So I think, well, that's it. Tip your ghillie. They do a great job. They don't earn a lot of money. Yeah, that would be my advice. Phew. Well, that was Theo and I have just finished a 6-mile walk. He's had about half an hour's worth of sleep, something to eat, and now he's ready to go again. So just to say, huge thanks for tuning in. They are my 6 questions that I normally get asked on the channel. There's so many more questions that keep coming up and keep popping up. And if you've got any questions for me, then put them in the comment section, and maybe we'll do a live Q&A one day. Anyway, thanks very much for your support. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and I look forward to bringing you more amazing salmon fishing adventures from the perspective of a novice salmon fisherman. Take care, everyone. I hope you have a great week. Proper job.